COVID-19 vaccine with children are underway. Currently, Pfizer's vaccine is authorized for people 16 and older, and Moderna's vaccine is authorized for those 18 and older. Joining us live to talk about what we need to know is Blanco, President and CEO of the Lynn Institute. Good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be on with you guys this morning.
It's great to have you on, as always. So just right off the top here, how are the trials going so far?
They're going very well. We were actually allotted more patients for the Moderna adolescent vaccine than we anticipated, and we're able to fill those slots. Oklahomans have responded overwhelmingly in terms of wanting to be in these trials and to be in the adolescent trial. So we were able to recruit almost 300 patients or volunteers for this trial. So we're very pleased with the way it's going.
So the vaccines, as we mentioned here, have been approved and authorized for a little bit of an older group. Why is it not safe to assume that if the vaccine is safe for adults, that it's going to be safe for children or younger teens?
I think that is the assumption. But regardless of the assumption, we still have to do the trials. We still have to make sure, go through the process of the clinical trial, because as I've said before, we're not taking shortcuts with the vaccine and we're not taking shortcuts with the clinical trials. So every age group will have to have a clinical trial done to make sure that it's safe, number one, and number two, that it works and it's just as effective as it is for the adults.
So here in Oklahoma at the Lynn Institute, you're doing the trials for Moderna's vaccine, and what age group is that?
That is the adolescent trial, which is 12 to 16. So if you think about it, just like you said earlier, Pfizer is filling in that gap from 16 up to 18. And now there's an attempt to fill the gap between 12 and 16. And here in a few months, we will do the age 2 all the way to 12. So we're slowly and methodically working our way through those age groups.
How are these trials different from the trials that were conducted with adults?
They're really very similar trials. The biggest difference is they're a little bit shorter. The adolescent trials are only a year. The adult trials were 2 years. The chance of getting the medication versus placebo is higher in the adolescent trials. Almost 67% chance of getting the vaccine in the children's trial. The adults was a 50-50 chance of vaccine versus placebo.
Now, I was reading about what you just mentioned about how these trials are expected to be a little bit shorter than the adult trials because they're going to be looking at the blood. Can you kind of explain what it is that you're looking at?
Sure. With the adolescents, we're looking at two things. Again, as I said, safety. Are there any side effects that we're seeing in the adolescent group that we didn't expect, that we didn't see in the adult group? So number one, make sure that it's just as safe as it is for adults. Number two, we need to make sure that it works just as well in the adolescents as it works in the adults. And right now, we don't have any reason to believe that it won't be just as effective. And again, the big question that's still out there is how long are these vaccines going to provide protection? So we're coming up on a year in a few months. We're coming up on a year's worth of data to try to figure out how long we have protection from these vaccines. And again, we're doing the same thing with the kids. Will they have the same amount of protections as adults? So it's all a very methodical process to make sure that these vaccines are safe for all of us.
Now, if for whatever reason the vaccines that are developed and authorized already, and they're not authorized for children for whatever reason that may be, would a whole new vaccine have to be developed, or is this a matter of maybe just adjusting the dosage?
No, it would, if anything, it would probably be a dosage adjustment of some kind. Although right now the adolescents are getting exactly the same dosage that adults are. So we don't foresee a necessity to change the dosage, or at least from our perspective, we don't see that needing to happen. And quite frankly, I think the scientific community, and certainly Moderna and Pfizer, both expect their vaccines work just as well in the adolescents as they do in the adults.
So we are talking about that adolescent group. Johnson & Johnson announced that they would be testing their vaccine on infants and even newborns. It's an extremely young age group there. How important is it for the vaccine to be tested on them as well?
Well, you know, it's really important, because ultimately we've got to get everybody vaccinated to get to a point where we have that herd immunity that we keep hearing about. It's critical. The other thing that's really important to note is, at least when you think about the age group from 10 to 19, those kids tend to be asymptomatic when they get COVID-19, which makes them extra dangerous because, again, they could bring home the disease to their mom or dad, or worse, to their grandparents. So kids are particularly important because they're largely asymptomatic, and you don't know that they're carrying the virus.
Are we expecting to see any different side effects among children when they get the vaccine?
No, we are not. We're expecting to see exactly the same thing, which is, again, the sore arm, or maybe a little bit of fatigue, a little bit of maybe a low-grade fever over the course of 6 or 8 hours after the injection. But no, we're really not expecting to see anything different, and so far have not seen anything different.
Good to know. And real quickly here, how long before we start seeing any data from these trials?
Well, the enrollment period for the Moderna trial closed a week ago. The FDA wants about 2 months worth of data beyond that, so we're probably talking that we expect to see Moderna file for the EUA within a couple of months, and the vaccine available very quickly after that for adolescents.
Okay, thank you so much. We always appreciate your time here speaking with us, and we'll check in with you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll be right back after this.